Hello there, I'm Jason Ball, and this is a bonus episode of Life After News called Is Warren Buffett Right? That's a question I've been mulling since the news came out that the only TV station Buffett owns, WPLG, is giving up its ABC affiliation after 69 years. I worked at PLG in the 90s, and ABC was a large part of the station's identity, but now Buffett says the current network affiliation model does not work. Is he right? That's one of the questions I put to Adam Jacobson, who is the editor-in-chief of the Radio and Television Business Report in South Florida. Hey, Adam, thank you so much for joining us to have this interesting conversation about the state of the TV station business. Miami hasn't had an affiliation change in many years. I worked there in the 90s, so it's been probably over 30 years. So what's your take on what's going on with ABC, WPLG, and WSVN?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, Jason. And let's just get back to 1989, if you will. I don't recall one market having so many network changes, if you will, over its history. When you go back 35, 40 years, Miami has seen tremendous changes. But let's not forget that WSVN itself, which is integral to this conversation regarding WPLG, lost NBC affiliation and became a fledgling of the Fox television network at a time when it was 21 Jump Street, some very, very poorly rated programming well before the NFL. That was a time where they never decided to become Fox 7. To this day, they are not branded in any way as a Fox station. They are 7 News, and that is being extended to the ABC Miami creation, which we'll get to in a second. But I think it's integral to understand the history of television in Miami, going back to when Ed Anson basically said to NBC, bye-bye. We don't necessarily need you, at a time when the Fox television network was nothing compared to what it is today. Now let's forward to where we are today with WPLG. When we first heard about that announcement, it was rather breathtaking because of the longevity of the ABC affiliation. Mind you, this is the only television station in South Florida that, aside from WPTV in West Palm Beach, has never seen an affiliate change. We had it with Channel 7, Channel 6, and Channel 4 did a whole big switch. So Channel 10 had always been ABC. It was a place where everybody felt very comfortable going there and knowing what they were getting. Now it's a different situation, one that Bert Medina, who's a very smart person, believes is savvy. I'm sure that the Berkshire Hathaway people believe it's savvy, but I think it remains to be seen what the home and what the place for WPLG will be in the coming months and years because of so many factors. And if you want me to get into those, I can start to delve into what it's going to be like for them to be a English language, news-intensive, locally focused television station in a highly multicultural marketplace that's ever shifting. Remember,
100%. I mean, Miami is such a unique market. I was very fortunate to work there in the 90s, and PLG, one and only, as it's always been known, the one and only, which is a great TV station and known for its news, but it did benefit from having that ABC affiliation. Back then, I don't, I can't speak to what it is in the last 10 years, but we really did benefit from that ABC prime time lead in for the late news. We also had Oprah for many years too, so that was so you do benefit from some of that key programming, whether it's network or syndication, but a lot of that has changed now too.
Yes, it has changed. And this is where Bert Medina and the team at BH Media believe that in 2026 and beyond, you're not going to need to go to Channel 10 to enjoy that network programming, because it is available on abc.com, or it's going to be available on Hulu and the Disney Plus when that gets rolled into Hulu. So, that network dynamic is fraying. And I think that it's a discussion that not a lot of people want to have. And there's also discussion that people do want to have because there's varying degrees of opinion on this. I just spoke with Brandon France, who's the vice president and general manager of one of the oldest NBC affiliates, that's WLWT in Cincinnati. And he is standing by that NBC affiliation because he thinks that it brings so much value to his station in addition to that local news. Burt Medina has taken a very different approach. And yes, it could be financially tied to where the station might best fit in this new paradigm of, well, how much is a network affiliation valued? And I don't know the specifics behind the dollars at stake, but I do know that in this particular instance, this topic of reverse compensation of a station paying ABC and its parent, the Walt Disney Company, a specific amount of money for the right to keep that ABC affiliation has become substantially high. What I can tell you is that in the cable TV world, ESPN has a per subscriber amount that's close to $10. And in a crumbling TV environment for cable, that is a lot of money. So, there's going to be a lot of push and pull. And I think that what BH Media and Burt Medina did is potentially the beginning of a evolution of what broadcast TV is on the local level.
I agree. I think
will it be seen in a lot of different markets? Yes. We're already seeing it coming in Atlanta.
Right. I definitely want to talk about Atlanta in a second, but
yeah,
Warren Buffett said this model doesn't work anymore, and he's, you don't really bet against Warren, but is he right in this situation? Sunbeam apparently seems to think that there is value in the affiliation, and they seem to be going down two completely different paths right now. What is that a good assessment?
I think it's really on a market by market basis. I alluded to the multicultural, multilingual Miami, and one could argue that in 1988, being an English language station in Miami-Dade County in particular was a losing proposition. In 2025, it's not only Miami-Dade, but it's Broward County. It's become so Caribbean and so Colombian and so Venezuelan, and the list goes on and on and on and on, where quickly English is no longer the dominant language for Fort Lauderdale and its surrounding communities, leaving Monroe County, which is Key West, which is not a lot of money when it comes to advertising dollars. So, look, there's one true reality that's facing Local 10, and that is simply this. Can it be the New York One or Spectrum News or News Channel 8 or whatever you want to call it for the Miami-Fort Lauderdale market, in a market which has been dying for local news? It's been years since WINZ was a top-rated local 24/7 news station. And until now, if you really, really wanted local news, you'd have to go online or to a TV station. There's nothing on the radio. There's, nothing to compare in terms of like what we have in New York or Los Angeles with local cable TV news. There's definitely, an opportunity here. But again, as I'm not in the Miami DMA, I'm actually in the West Palm Beach DMA, but I've talked to family members that watch Local 10, and they're already telling me, there's only so many local news reports that we can see. We're not going to keep this station on for an hour and a half or 2 hours like we used to, because they don't have World News Tonight, and that car crash out in West Kendall, I don't need to see it 4 times before Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think that you're right that there is an opportunity to do local news where it can be on whenever it is, and whenever there is breaking news, they'll certainly benefit from that they're kind of on all the time. But and then let's talk a little bit about, they're going from approximately 30 something hours of news a week to more than 90 news, and that's a lot. The station I worked at KTLA, when I left, we were doing over 90 hours a week. But we didn't do that overnight. That happened over
Hmm.
8 or 9 years. I just worry that the pressure that's put on the system and the operation is going to be a lot of work. What are your thoughts on growing by
So,
tripling the amount of news they do in a week?
well, the question I have is 90 hours. Is that 90 hours of original programming, or is that 90 hours meaning that they're just going to rebroadcast certain newscasts?
But it's live news. Well, I mean, obviously there's a lot of repetition within that, but it's 90 hours of live
But
news.
how many local newscasts can a market sustain?
Right.
When it's the same reports over and over and over again, then you become headline news for Miami. They're going to have to, really try hard to go above and beyond with community embedded reporting, which is being championed by the EW Scripps company right now. Perhaps, taking a cue from NBC6 and doing a lifestyle show. There's going to have to be something more. I believe that there will be. I mean, this is just the beginning of an evolution for this TV station. Who knows what's to come? They could get the Miami Heat or the Miami Marlins, and that brings a whole new paradigm to the station. If they go the route of high school sports, good luck. There's only so much appetite for Northwestern High School, even though they're one of the best high schools in America when it comes to high school football. Then you become, you know, Lubbock, Texas. I'm sorry. There's no other way to get around it. I mean, you're still competing against NBC6. You're competing against ABC Miami and 7 News. You're competing against CBS 4. And those are network branded TV stations serving South Florida. And to be the one and only local 10, you just don't pigeon yourself into being so hyper local. You're only going to get a certain audience, and that's it.
I mean, that really is true, especially about the multilingual and the multicultural. And it's way more multicultural now than when I lived there 25 years ago. When I was there, it's when Univision and Telemundo became the number 1 and number 2 TV stations over PLG and SVN. So that is an interesting way to, an interesting notion. I don't know. You're right. There's definitely something they need to figure out on that, because that's definitely going to be a challenge. Let's talk about Atlanta. So I guess there's a similar situation going on in Atlanta, where the Gray TV station is giving up its CBS affiliation. It's going to a station that's owned by CBS.
The similarity is that there is a CBS affiliation change. The situation in Atlanta is wholly different than that of Miami. And again, we can talk a little bit about the difference by just simply saying that in Atlanta, Paramount had a TV station that did not have CBS affiliation. It had been known for many, many years that at some point in the future, Paramount could decide that they wanted the CBS affiliation for their owned and operated station. With the Paramount Skydance merger, with market dynamics and Gray Media coming in and buying what was CBS 46 from Meredith Local Media, they kind of knew that something would eventually happen, which is why when they made that switch to Atlanta News First under their ownership, it put a new stamp on the station that didn't necessarily depend on the future of the CBS affiliation. So they've had 2 years to kind of reestablish the station. When it came time where, okay, we're gonna let you have the CBS O&O. Best of luck to you. It was certainly similar to Miami in that you have this TV station in Atlanta that's now going to be very locally focused, and how Gray Media decides to do that is certainly up to them. But you also now have a CBS O&O that is going to be launching a local news department of its own. And that I would question more than what the future of Atlanta News First and WANF TV will be, because for CBS to be launching from scratch a news operation in CBS Atlanta, I'm sorry, that's highly risky.
It is highly risky, but it sounds like you feel like that Gray's prepared for this, and you think they're more likely to be successful?
One can never guarantee success,
Yeah.
especially in a competitive market like Atlanta. But I think that they have the recipe because they've known for a while that this is coming. Local 10 in Miami has also had time to prepare. And there are other examples where this works. And, there are companies that are ripe to give credit where credit is due. NWJXT in Jacksonville, Arizona's Family, which is Channel 3, KTVK in Phoenix. These are both highly successful television stations that are going at it with 24/7 local programming. Again, it's what the local programming is. And I think that Local 10 in Miami in particular still has to figure out what it's going to do beyond local news, Wheel of Fortune, and Jeopardy. And it may take time. I know that there's a lot of excitement over the local ratings, day one, day two ratings. Oh, we're doing great. Um, Good for them. But, let's see where things are in March. Hopefully by March of 2026, they have a programming grid that's not so newscast focused and really kind of gives a local lifestyle spin to this TV station. There's more to local than covering a fire or a car crash.
100%. You have to, and that's how you differentiate the newscasts too between the hours of doing something. Obviously, the news of the day, the A block or whatever is going to be similar, but then you have to figure out how to differentiate those things and have different stories throughout the hour or different segments, or there has to be some lifestyle too.
And I would be remiss not to bring up KTLA, Channel 5 in Los Angeles, because they were attacked head on by CBS Los Angeles. KCAL News and KCBS Channel 2 made an aggressive push to add newscasts and essentially go right after them in morning drive. And, this is one of the few markets in the U.S. where you could have 3 competing newscasts at 4 in the morning. But between Good Day LA at KTTV, Fox 11, which is a great operation, Good Day LA at KTLA, and now KCAL News, wow, that's a huge competitive battle at 4 o'clock in the morning, and KTLA is hanging tough, and they're doing a remarkable job of focusing on things that are local to certain communities, but are relevant to the entire audience. I found out about a woman-owned coffee cafe in Encino from watching KTLA, and now I'm a patron. So, it's the things like that are going to make Local 10 work. Tell me why Steve's Pizza in North Miami is a treasured community tradition for the last 50 years. Tell me why Calle Ocho is the heart of Miami and the beating renaissance of a new Miami. Again, that's where this station is going to have to go. And being in the heart of South Broward County, it is now central to the entire population. That is a strength, and it just needs to, again, let things happen and, do it organically and in a measured way without having to jump right into the ocean and saying, oh, we need to do 50,000 things and 49,000 of them don't work.
Yeah, one at a time. Evolution, not revolution. That's what but I appreciate the kind words about KTLA, because I was there for a long time, and that was what our notion was. I mean, like, we're going to all do the same basic stories right off the top, but you have to figure out what those differentiating things are throughout the rest of the hour and each hour, and think of it as each hour. And I think, Bill Pahovey's been the news director. He was my news director when I worked there. So I think he understands the market, and hopefully he understands the market and can figure out how to program, because that's really what you're doing now. You're programming a TV station. You're not just doing news. He really is focused on that. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they do. I wish them the best. I love that TV station. It was a remarkable learning experience for me as a young producer and executive producer. So I definitely wish them well. All right. I appreciate the time, Adam, and the insight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. I've always said that local news and programming is the only thing a TV station can offer in the vast sea of content these days. I do wish my friends at WPLG the best for the future. Hope that wasn't too soapboxy. If it is, let me know. Let me know what you think. lifeafternews.com or at lifeafternewspod on Instagram. Back to regular programming on Tuesday. If you like the show, share it with a friend.